Hello, everyone. This is Jordan. Welcome back to the Daily Gold YouTube channel. And for those who are new, welcome to the Daily Gold YouTube channel. This video is being recorded on the afternoon of Friday, May 30th, 2025. And as we always do at the end of every week on Friday, we wrap up the week in precious metals and look ahead. Thank you so much for joining me. And this past week in precious metals, very interesting. We had gold down about 2% on the week. Silver down 1.5% on the week. However, if we look at the stocks, GDX, GDXJ, SILJ, GOEX, they were all up on the week. And I'm going to get to an important chart here, but that's the key thing for me is that even though gold and silver continue to consolidate within a larger correction, the miners and the gold stocks especially, and that includes the junior indices, they're showing real relative strength. So let's get to it. So starting off here is our market overview, and I'm using, I believe, the custom feature in stock charts where you can set up your own settings for charts here. And so this is a 3-month candle look with my own moving averages here. So this is the 50-day in blue, then you have the 200-day below that, and the other moving average in some cases is the 400-day. So here we can see with respect to, here's gold and silver. Gold clearly had the big bounce here just above 3,100. Nice move at the end of last week, that right here. But this week it's come back down. So I'm looking for gold to continue to go sideways for the better part of the summer. Gold against the S&P, remember, big breakout over here. Huge move higher. So this is major support here. You also have the 200-day filling in close to 0.50. Got very oversold, big bounce, so who knows? Maybe it's going to go sideways for a little bit. Silver, speaking of sideways action here, 34.32. And this, I believe, is a 200-day moving average right here. This is the 400-day. One thing I want to point out about silver, and this also applies to gold. So this sideways move here, don't be swayed because we could get a false move in either direction. You could get a move up here to 34, and people could be saying, oh, this is a big breakout. And then it could come right back down. The same thing could happen. If this loses 32 and breaks down here, you could say, oh, well, this is almost $2. This could come back down to 30. And while that's possible, just be advised. There are a lot of fake moves, a lot of false moves in precious metals. So for me, we're still in a larger correction with respect to gold and silver. But we can see here, looking at the stocks, there's GDX, GDXJ, SILJ. SILJ almost looked like it was breaking out here. So that failed, it came back, but a good candle today to close the week. And so again, if we're looking at this strength, this is stronger than what we see in the metals. The stocks are stronger than the metals. And we're in a correction in the sector. So that is a good sign. Now let's get to precious metals specifically and the daily candle charts for gold and silver. So here is the gold daily candle chart. Here is the silver daily candle chart. Now for gold, this is the 200-day moving average here. This is the 150-day moving average. Now, as I have stated, in the past, you have 6 other major breakouts in gold. This is the 7th. In those 6 other major breakouts in gold, gold breaks out, makes a big move higher, then it comes back and corrects down to usually the 200-day moving average. Now, you go back to 1972, it came really close, didn't quite test the 200-day, but close enough in my view. Now, in 2009, keep this in mind, gold came within about 3% of testing the 200-day, but it actually bottomed at the 150-day. So that's why I'm keeping this in mind here, the 150-day moving average. So I've sketched this here, and here's the 200-day, of course. And again, this is what a larger consolidation might look like in gold. This isn't my best guess. Well, it is just a guess right now. It's subject to change. But I'm not trading on it or investing based on my guess here as to how the price action could play out over the next couple months. But you could see something similar to this where it goes sideways, the moving averages catch up like this, and maybe it tests the 150-day, maybe even the 200-day if gold were to consolidate past August, maybe a little bit into September. And look, in the big picture, this is a very, very bullish consolidation if it plays out like this. Now, moving on with respect to silver, not really that exciting. You have this, again, you have this consolidation here. There's a few too many black candles here in silver. Same thing with gold here. There's a few too many black candles. So there's still profit taking. There's still spec selling and getting stopped out of the market. So it's going to take more time for sellers to clear out of the market. And then at that point, we reach a better bullish equilibrium, and then we could get the big move higher in gold and silver, of course, above 35. Now, let's move on here to the weekly chart. And yeah, we had a really great week 2 weeks ago in gold, but it's still in a larger consolidation. Still in a larger consolidation. Now, with respect to silver, looking at the weekly chart, we can see this looks to be, I want to be cautious, but I'm leaning on the side of this is a bullish consolidation. We've talked about it in the last couple videos, but we can see here, this appears to be a bullish consolidation. Remember, I talked about it. This was resistance, 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 a fourth failure. Then silver got above it, came down just below it, rallied, came back down again here, 20, call that 29. Big rally off of there. Stock market mini crash, intraday, nearly tested the 80-week. Yeah, nearly tested the 80-week moving average, the 400-day moving average, but another big bounce, and now it's having a little consolidation. But all these bounces, you look at this price action, that tells me this support here is solidified, and eventually silver should be able to break above 34 and 35. Here's a weekly line where we're not looking at the volatility. We're looking at the weekly line, and this is how it could set up. So even if you get a mini breakdown in silver here below 32 and it comes down to, call it 30 or even 29, not predicting that's going to happen, but that type of move lower, that is still in the context of a very bullish consolidation. And so this, I'm just sketching out here a rough guess as how this could evolve. Again, it's very important to keep in mind. It could go lower. It's still in the context of a very bullish consolidation. So not time yet for gold and silver. They're going to remain in a bullish consolidation. But what's interesting is we're seeing money at the same time come into the stocks. The Daily Gold Premium, our portfolio, we own and cover these companies that we own for you. They've just been doing really, really well. And so if you're not a subscriber and you own minors and juniors, I think it would behoove you to become a subscriber and see the work that we do. And you can immediately see, you'll find our top 10 companies, our watch list companies. And don't worry, we are looking at companies we missed. There is a new company we're going to introduce this week, which I think is a really good value. So we're not just standing pat. We are looking for new things. And there are a few things out there that are not as extended, that are high quality. So we are going to bring those to your attention. But would love to have you consider subscribing at thedailygold.com/premium. And people, the important thing is you have to own the right stocks. You have to own the leaders. You have to own the stocks that are crushing it. We can help you do that at the Daily Gold. All right, so moving on, let's talk about the stocks. And this is a big insight for this week. It's not rocket science, but I was looking at lots of charts thinking, what am I going to talk about in this video? Is there anything really interesting? Well, I finally got to it. The gold stocks are breaking out against gold. Here we have GDX against gold, GDXJ divided by gold, GOEX divided by gold. And GOEX, people, is look at GDXJ and take out the top 7 or 8 companies. That's basically GOEX, and I like that ETF better. I'm not saying I would buy that because it's so thinly traded, but for tracking purposes, I love GOEX. And we can see here, look, this baby is breaking out of a base here. It broke out just today or yesterday. This is a 2-year high. GOEX against gold, juniors against gold, 2-year high. GDXJ against gold, very close. I mean, I didn't check it exactly. Maybe the weekly closes a 2-year high. We're basically there. GDX, look, the seniors, they're lagging, but eventually this thing will break out here. So keep this in mind. The juniors especially, they are breaking out against gold. While gold is correcting, this is really, really bullish. This is setting the stage for what's coming over the next 12 to 18 months. And it's not surprising because in the last couple months, we know that gold stocks have broken out of these 4.5-year long bases, at least 4.5 years. Canadian GDX here, this was actually a 14-year breakout if you're pricing GDX in Canadian dollars. So look at that. Look at all these things. Clear breakout, retest with the stock market crash. And I got another chart that's similar to this. We can look at the price action here, weekly thumbnails here, and we can see this would be support here for GDX. Nearly tested it here. Big move 2 weeks ago. And here we can see actually there were two tests right here, just below 40. Same thing here, one test a little bit lower. So you had two tests, same thing here, GDXJ, same thing here in XGD, again, the Canadian GDX. And typically, with respect to a market, once you get two successful tests, that really, really solidifies the mark. So with respect to GOEX here, or GDX up here, you can see there's the first test, second test. And after you get two successful tests, it's just you're going to be pushing higher and pushing against resistance at that point. Similar chart here, zooming in on GDX, GDXJ, GOEX. You can clearly see the breakout here, big breakout. And of course, as I said, the stock market crash here, that was a retest. And again, this is just a better view of these candles. Again, successful, one retest, two retest, retest one, retest two, retest one, retest two, one a little bit lower. But again, when you're looking at a test of support, when you get two successful tests really quickly, that's it. The market's moving higher after that. So that's where we are for the stocks. And this is a monthly chart. We closed the month, by the way. So thinking about monthly charts, let's look at where GDX and GDXJ are. It closed at the high of the month, basically. High of the month. And look, above this resistance here. This is resistance here, monthly resistance. So it closed above that. So GDX, at some point fairly soon, it should be coming up here close to 60 and this high. And by the way, the measured upside target, you're looking at this 4.5-year base here. What is that? Potentially 60 or a little bit higher. So there's still more upside in these ETFs. Look at the next stiff resistance for GDXJ, not until 86 or 87-ish. Monthly chart, this is very big picture. It doesn't mean that the miners can't sell off or consolidate for a month or two, but it's just telling us big picture, monthly time frames. This looks really good and really bullish. Okay, finishing off here with the daily charts, GDX, GDXJ, SILJ, the silver juniors. Again, this is a really bullish setup here. All these tests of 13. It looked like we were breaking above it, failed, we came back, but good candle today. So yeah, there's a short-term risk that this could come back and consolidate. Same with these here. It could come back and consolidate a little bit like that. But that would just give the miners a lot more fuel to eventually power through these highs here. So that's where we are. Metals, gold and silver, they continue to be in a correction. I think that will continue. And I think that will slow down the miners a little bit. But it's clear that the miners are in good shape relative to the metal. Even silver stocks and silver juniors are outperforming silver now. That's another chart we could have shown. So let me know what you think of the video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you have a great weekend. And I got a lot of great interviews for you coming next week. Really looking forward to it. Thank you so much for tuning in, and talk to you guys next week. See you on Monday.